Hello, everybody. It's really nice to see you. Some of these endless summer weeks that roll forward, this has become a highlight of my week. My name is Monty Paulson. I lead the PASFAUS team at RDH Building Science, and I'm really happy to see you. It's my honor to welcome each of you every week to the PASFAUS Happy Hour hosted by PASFAUS Accelerator. As I think you know, this is an inclusive gathering. We welcome people from all PASFAUS communities, as well as anyone else working to create zero emissions building with lower embodied carbon, even if they've been at it for 40 years. So please turn on your cameras. We want to see your face. Please turn on your microphones just for a minute. We'd like to hear you toast. And please raise a glass with me on this hot summer day and toast operable exterior shading.
Cheers. Cheers.
The 2,000-year-old device that's still struggling to gain its way into the architecture community. So Architecture 2030 got nothing on this. All right, now please mute your mics because we have some brilliant presenters on deck. First up, Lindsay Rasmussen is going to tell us a little bit about Architecture 2030 and Reset. I know you're all wondering, will she sing? And following up on today's opening of the new Gravity Housing Conference, which goes for 2 more days, Sangeetha Sambandam is going to present Passive House Takes a Village. Now, please allow me to introduce my co-host, Prudence Ferreira.
Hey, everyone. I'm Prudence Ferreira. I lead the Passive House team for Morrison Hirschfield. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome again. It's number 21. We love newcomers in our community. We love your questions and your perspective and your curiosity. So don't be shy, jump right in. We value your voice. Also, we love seeing everyone's projects. So please share your 2 to 3 minute videos of your handiwork so we can celebrate and fuel everyone's inspiration with positive impact you're making. Zach will paste in the chat where you can send your videos. And on a more thoughtful note, I'd like to take a moment to share a core inspiration for Passive House Accelerator and this happy hour. Although there are different certification paths and compliance thresholds for Passive House, namely PHI and PHIUS, they're both all about healthy, comfortable, high performance, low operational carbon buildings. And the beauty is physics doesn't lie, right? And it has no ego. And the Accelerator is firmly anchored in that truth. We're focused on sharing practical strategies, solutions, and lessons learned that apply across the spectrum, whether you're certifying through PHIUS, PHI, aiming for zero carbon or carbon positive. And we all learn and grow from each other's work. And there's just an incredible synergy that happens when we embrace differences and diversity of experience from a place of respect and with a spirit of curiosity. We're all so earnest about finding ways to transform our industry and our built environment as quickly as possible. And as we seek answers, I'd just like to invite us all to open our hearts and minds and appreciate that none of us on our own has the answers. The true authority here is direct experience and monitored performance data, of course. But if we can view the efforts of all of us, of all of our colleagues that are exploring approaches that might be different than our own, as valuable pioneering teamwork, essentially dividing and conquering for better exploration of all of the options, so that we can come back together and share what we learn with a common focus on shared solutions, then we can truly accelerate our efforts. We all feel climate emergency urgency. We all feel the pressure of the pandemic and fear of uncertainty and choice. It's a responsibility. Sometimes it might feel easier not to have choices, just to have one clear path, or to be frustrated that there isn't just one path. But before you post a comment or a question into the happy hour chat or community forum, just take a minute and ask yourself, are you choosing an exclusion mindset, an us versus them, maybe competitiveness arising from scarcity mindset or fear, or an attachment to wanting to be right? Or are you choosing inclusion, appreciation, collaboration, and an open mind and heart? We at the Accelerator, we don't have a crystal ball, none of us do. And we don't know where this journey we're all on together is going to lead us, but we do feel very strongly that the best way forward is together, respectfully and collaboratively. We need each and every one of our minds and hearts and voices. Our survival depends on it. And life teaches us again and again and again until we finally learn the path to unity is through embracing our diversity. Thanks for hearing me out on that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Lindsay Rasmussen. Lindsay is a senior program manager with Architecture 2030, and she's developed and managed several of Architecture 2030's education initiatives. Most recently, Carbon Positive Reset, 1.5 degrees Celsius global teach-in that's coming up here in September, which is a very exciting opportunity for us all to collaborate with an even broader community who share goals that are very much aligned with ours. Thank you so much for joining us, Lindsay.
Yes, thank you for having me, and incredibly well said. I couldn't think of a better way to say that. It's an incredibly difficult time that we're going through right now, but it's great to hear your positivity. So yeah, it's wonderful to meet you all, and I don't know how long these happy hours have been going on, but it's great to finally meet you and join one. I have been a CPHD for about 5 years now, so it's always great to see this network come together. Louisa, to answer your question, Ed was actually a professional basketball player. He was drafted by the Knicks to play professionally before deciding to go to Architects Without Borders and Peace Corps down in Peru. So before COVID, he was actually playing basketball still in his almost 70 years, 3 days a week. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he would still go play basketball. So fun fact there. But anyway, thank you all for inviting me, and it's great to say a few words. And thank you for having Ed as your keynote this morning. He really outlined everything that I wanted to say here, so I can keep this short and we can get on with the happy hour. But again, I wanted to just highlight the important role that you all play in meeting our global climate goals. As you know, Passive House is really the gold standard for operational building performance. And now we have this challenge and really this opportunity to take this expertise and this knowledge and go one step further to carbon positive design. So starting to focus a lot more on putting emphasis on embodied carbon, making sure we're incorporating renewables into every project. But you all have the expertise and the knowledge to do just that. So it's an incredible opportunity we have. And I also just wanted to echo Ed and personally invite you to join the Carbon Positive Reset that'll be taking place this September. Registration is open and it's a free one-day global event. It'll dive into all aspects of decarbonizing the built environment. So looking at efficiency to electrification to renewables, talking about urban planning and carbon sequestration within our landscapes. And then we do have an entire track dedicated to embodied carbon. So I'll keep it really short. I'm really thrilled to be here and thank you all. It's great to meet you. With that, cheers.
Great. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Really appreciate it. And we're also appreciative of the leadership that you and Architecture 2030 take. So thank you very much. So we're going to jump into the 3-minute breakout rooms. And so please take this chance to do some rapid fire introductions and get to know one another. And I'm going to create the rooms now and we'll see you in 3 minutes. I'm going to dive into announcements real fast, and then we're going to get into the meat of the program here. And I want to start by reminding everyone that the New Gravity Housing Conference is underway, and you heard about a little bit about Ed Masria's keynote this morning. The Housing Conference is offering a special discount code that has just become live. So you can register for the conference for $50 using that New Gravity Discount 50 discount code and going to that URL. I'll post all of this in chat. And tomorrow is going to launch with some trivia questions. And so in honor of that, I've got a trivia poll that I want to share with everybody. Little trivia, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment.
Can you answer this? Hey, wait. I might know this one.
It's possible that Monty had a hand in this. So please share your guesses, and at the end of announcements, I'll
share your guesses. Now, the key is this is one taste of tomorrow morning's New Gravity Conference opens with a trivia contest with several of us hosting, and if you get this right, you've got an inside track to win a whole bunch of questions that are either building science or something else.
Nice. Nice. Okay, and then you just heard Lindsay talk about the Carbon Positive Reset event, and I will share a link in the chat in a moment. I often go through and talk about the individual Passive House gatherings that are going on every week. This week, I'm just going to invite you to go to this URL on the Passive House Accelerator site to access links. I know Mark Wiley has some details about Friday's event that he's going to share in chat in a moment as well. Also, the 24th International Passive House Conference, which was going to be in Berlin, is being held virtually this year, September 20th through October 8th. So it'll be kind of interspersed throughout that period. And if you register now, there's an early bird discount available. So I want to finish here by thanking our sponsors that make the work of Passive House Accelerator possible. So our founding sponsors, Mitsubishi Electric, Zola Windows, RDH Building Science, and Baxt Ingui Architects. Thank you very much. Our stakeholder partner, NYSERDA, and our patron sponsors, Morrison Hershfield and 475 High Performance Building Supply. And with that, I will hand it off.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. So, as many of you know, I lead a team that consults both in the PHIUS and the PHI standards. We also do net zero projects, but that's a whole other bun fight. Now, working with a foot in both camp, I have developed this perverse obsession, as anyone would. I've wanted for years to find a project we could model both ways, to do the same building completely in the PHIUS standard, completely in the Passive House standard, also probably to step code and a few others, and have the opportunity to really tease out some of its technical differences, while at the same time determining that the business case was probably the same for each of these. This has become my dream. You could say it's my white whale. And so it was with incredible jealousy that I discovered recently that the woman you're about to hear from has actually harpooned my white whale. Sangeetha Sambandam is a project architect and certified Passive House designer for a project that will provide 200 new low-income rental units. And she is about to share on a multi-phase, multi-family mixed-use project where the first three phases have been tax credits, and they're pursuing different forms of Passive House certification. She is also a LEED AP, a WELL AP, a Living Future accredited professional. She volunteers with Green Building United's Philadelphia collaborative of the living building community in a group advocating for sustainable education in high schools. And it is my somewhat jealous honor to introduce the very talented Sangeetha Sambandam. Or we'll take the slides and we can see you afterwards.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you in that way.
No worries. Okay. So the project I'm going to be presenting is called Village at Park River. So this is a multi-phase, multi-family project, pretty much transforming this neighborhood in Hartford, Connecticut. Oh, trying to get the slides to move. Sorry about that. All right, so the picture you're seeing to the left here is the site prior demo, which is seeing all the public housing, a 40-acre former public housing site. And the picture to the right is phases 1 and 2 in construction. The design intent is to have 420 units over 6 phases, multifamily, mixed income housing. And here's a beautiful rendering, which was done by Kirk Fromm. So the design is by WRT, as you know. So you're looking at all 6 phases here. We have 6 buildings in phase 1, which will be completed this fall. 6 buildings in phase 2, which will kind of completed spring of next year. And we have 6 buildings in phase 3, which will break ground this fall. And there's also a community building here. And we are currently working on the tax credit application to be submitted fall of this year for phase 4, which will be 5 buildings. So here is like the master plan. So phase one here, the 6 buildings will be certified to PHI standards. Phase two will be certified to PHIUS plus 2015. Phase three to PHI. And phase four, we are currently working on the energy model. We are actually working on the energy model for PHIUS plus 2018 and having some struggles. We are able to, with some tweaking, I would say we are able to meet the heating demand and the cooling demand of the project, but we are struggling to meet the source energy criteria, which has been, I know the threshold has kind of tightened for a good reason from PHIUS 2015 to PHIUS 2018, but we yet have to figure this out. So over the 3 phases which have been awarded low-income housing tax credit, that will give us like 200 units. Phase 4, which will go into submission this fall, will be an additional 60 units. So this is like looking at the QAP of Connecticut Housing Financing Authority. As you can see, there's a good amount of weightage given for sustainable design, particularly passive house design. And we usually, like, the tax credit application goes beyond the 90% construction documents. It's like a 95. So that gets an added 3 points here. And we also provide about PV for each phase. We've been providing to about accommodate for 33% to provide for site lighting. So all put together, I think it's been a great opportunity to be doing passive house in the state of Connecticut. Here are some pictures in construction, phases 1 and 2. You can see the nearly completed buildings of phase 1. Moving on to some passive house envelope features. So we have used XPS for sub-slab rigid insulation, and then 15 mils Tego wrap for the vapor barrier. The exterior wall assembly is ZIP R12 exterior sheathing combined with R21 batt insulation. The exterior doors here are not passive house doors. Actually, the client didn't like the look of the passive house doors, so we are going with masonite insulated solid core doors. I think it's like a R7 or R9. So we did model that in the energy model. However, as you know, we can't model air infiltration. The windows are passive house rated Alpen windows in the units, and phase 1, we have like a small management space, which also has these about 6 feet by 6 feet passive house rated windows. And at the ceiling air barrier, we chose to use zip sheathing. You'll see this detail in a few minutes. So pretty much everything, so they're all low-rise, and all the buildings follow this kind of concept. Everything is within the passive house envelope except the sprinkler room. So here's pretty much captures what I just talked about. Rigid insulation for sub-slab, which gives us an R20. For most buildings, there are some buildings which are pretty tight. We had to bump it up to an R30. ZIP R12 exterior sheathing combined with R21 batt, which gives us about an R33. And the roof is a blown-in cellulose insulation to about a R100. As you see, our passive house air barrier kind of is terminated at the ceiling, and the attic space is excluded from the passive house envelope. Moving on to some mechanical features, the 1-bedroom units have wall-mounted heat pumps. And then for the 2- and 3-bedroom units, we have ducted heat pumps. The hot water heater for all units is a gas-fired tankless on-demand system. Each unit has its own individual ERV. This is the PV, which we have 1 building in each phase, providing to accommodate for this about 33% of site lighting. And The units have their own washer and dryer with a ventless dryer. So the data you're seeing here is coming from the energy model. This is like a worst case building for each phase. And this is building 15 in phase 3 seems to be our tightest energy model. This is phase 3 is PHI. When I say tightest, it's not due to the EUI, it's like our heating demand is getting very close to the threshold. Here is just to bring some discussion to how we had designed the air barrier detail at the foundation. We had designed the stego wrap sub-slab riding up the edge of the slab under the sill plate and vertically riding up the exterior zip sheathing. However, GC struggled with this detail, and what's happening as a construction detail is pretty much this. So we're doing the stego wrap. The stego wrap kind of stops under the sill plate, and then there is like a zip tape to bridge that and take it over the exterior zip R12 sheathing. And they're coming back with the fluid applied air barrier to make it a continuous air. So the windows are passive house, as you know, triple glazed. We detailed it to include the self-expanding foam joint sealing tape. However, that was VE'd during the process. I think it's a combination of the GCs not being familiar of the practicality of installing this, and also it's a cost. So on site, the detail actually what happened is it got like closed cell spray foam as the air seal. So this is the passive house air barrier detail I'd mentioned previously. So we're doing this kind of a sandwich system. So we have the zip R12 as the wall assembly, and we're kind of continuing that at the ceiling with the zip sheathing. So for some testing information, so as some of you may have heard at this afternoon's presentation, when Adam Blackburn talked about that CHFA requires all testing protocol to be per PHIUS, irrelevant of if the project is getting certified to PHI or PHIUS. That being said, we had to, for these, so the preliminary testing has been completed for some of the buildings, not the final yet. That will be done anytime soon. So for the final testing, we had to do these openings between each demising wall condition, about a 12 by 12 opening for the passive house whole building testing. And also we have like stacked flats. So we had these openings made at the raised porches. So this was happening at every floor at the demising wall. So after the passive house whole building testing is completed, the GC has to come back, patch everything, air seal, fire seal, every location, and then the Energy Star testing for individual unit compartmentalization is done. So that's a bit of a process, but I'm not sure if there's any other option. And preliminary testing, we found that there was a lot of leakage at basically the passive house envelope. There was leakage air infiltration at the sills. The windows somehow were not adjusted, so that windows had to be adjusted on site. And air infiltration at the ERV vents was a bit of an issue. There was some wood blocking we had shown in the detail, so that had to get fixed. And also at the heel of the trusses was a great location where there's a lot of leakage, air infiltration coming in. So yeah, so this is a rendering of a street view. This I think is coming from phase 2. And I would like to conclude by thanking our client, Charlie Adams. Adam Blackburn from Innova is a passive house rater, and Adam Kinkle from Haynes Construction is the project manager from is the GC project manager. And I think we should be having all three of them in the audience to make it a more interesting Q&A session.
Thank you, Sangeetha. I think I did see Adam Blackburn here. Come to think of it, they're all Adams. So
yes, they're
all three Adams could be here. If so, please say hi. And we'll take some questions for any of you on the
howdy, this is Adam Blackburn saying hi.
Oh, there's Adam Blackburn. And I also want to acknowledge that we have a good presence of WRT in the audience. Julie Diston, our project manager, is here, and pretty much the entire team. Thank you all.
Thank you. Sean, do you have some questions queued up for Sangeetha and the Adams, which sounds like a band, if you say it that way?
Absolutely. So just before we get started with the questions, I really want to reach out to those that have been attending the Pasos Happy Hour that haven't asked a question. We'd love to hear from you. So again, no stupid questions, just a lot of Passive House answers. So that being said, Graham, Irwin, you had a couple questions, but I'll start off with the first one.
My first question, I believe, was how many units were on the site before this?
Oh, before the demo, public housing?
Correct.
I think there were about 200. I'm not sure if Charlie Adams is the audience, but my memory is around 200. Oh, there's Julie saying, I believe it was 300 units.
Yeah, it was a fairly enormous site.
Okay.
Sorry, and Peter Holtzman, you had the next question. Peter, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was curious about the if there was difference in the modeling between the PHI and the PHIUS standard. I know that the whole embodiment of the project is to see how it all pans out, but if there was any difference that you could see in the modeling.
I mean, the threshold criteria is different, but detailing and the R values across all faces hasn't changed. So the detail, there's absolutely no change to the detailing. It's just the modeling approach is different, and the threshold criteria between PHI and PHIUS is different for the testing.
Sorry, everybody. Just next one. Apologize, Apsha. You're
Hi,
up
this
next.
is Apeksha.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, so my question was regarding the tankless hot water boiler, which was gas-fired, unfortunately. What was the performance of that, and were there any other options thought about for providing?
Other options, I think we always went with this system. We had tested the system and had great success in Meriden Commons 2, which was a project which was discussed this afternoon. So we decided to use the same Navion hot water heater.
And what's the
issue, Sangeetha, really is that the electric hot water here has killed us as far as the energy penalty goes in the model.
Modeling, yeah, because there's a greater penalty for the hot energy model for electric.
Yeah.
There are two other options that you can look at, but they have their
heat pump hot water heaters aren't going to work in a low-income housing development that needs the floor area for bedrooms and living space.
Exactly.
And they have a very, very slow startup.
And noisy, right?
Well, they're the split units. They're the Sandons, and the Sandons are not. Yeah, the Sandons are not noisy, but they're expensive and kind of they're not ready for low-income housing. I suspect they're not.
Nor do we have the space to plant all those condensers all over the place for outside units.
And they're limited to a 25-foot run also, because all of the heat pump happens in the condenser unit, and you're actually piping hot water, and then you have to worry about an outside climate, heat tape, then it's a problem.
That's a good discussion, though. I think this is good this gets raised in this context, because these are the questions we hammer out in these projects all the time.
All right, thanks everyone. Tim, you're next.
Sure thing, thank you. I had sort of a double question here. First part was, were the thermal bridges at the wall sill to foundation assessed, and also the ones around the window? It didn't appear to be perfectly thermal bridge free. Now, I'm not inherently familiar with your climate zone. And the second part is about the R value in the roof. That seemed massive compared to the R value that were present in wall and other assemblies. Has that been value engineered? And is there a specific reason why that R factor in the roof is so high compared to a wall that's relatively low?
So yes, energy modeling, we did like thermal analysis for thermal bridging. So that was all taken into account. And we were seeing like we were not meeting the energy model criteria if we didn't get to like that kind of R value for the blown-in cellulose insulation. For phase 4, as we're tweaking the energy model, we were doing like test case situations where if we like reduce the sub-slab rigid insulation from 4 inches to say 2 inches, yeah, it's like easier to pass the cooling demand and things like that. But for the cellulose, we're ending up close to an R100 at the ceiling. And this is climate zone 5B.
Tim, does that answer it?
I have so many more questions, but I'll probably do that offline. Thanks for now.
All right, hold on, Tim. We got a few more in the hopper. I think I queued up David. And again, thanks, David, for your organization on the new gravity event.
No, it's our pleasure, and thank you for the Accelerator support. And it's awesome to see all of you here. Welcome, Sangeetha, Adam.
Hi.
Great to see you. Great to see you both. And I've seen Julie and a few other of my WRT friends popping up. So hello to all of you.
Is that Margaret?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, Margaret.
So, yeah, as Monty pointed out, it must be date night. So my question, I wanted you to clarify if you had to change, any of the assemblies based on PHI or PHIUS certifications. And the other thing, I don't know if the other Adam is on the call.
Adam Kinkle.
Because I was curious about that, having to, reseal the, reseal the demising walls after the blower door test, and just what was that sequencing like? It sounds extremely complicated.
Yeah, I can answer that, David. It was a massive pain in the ass. Because, because we're chasing two standards, right? We're certifying under PHI and verifying under PHIUS. And we have to punch this building out and turn it over to the client, at the same time. So the way we did it was sort of in two phases, and luckily the timing worked out for us, where we were on site at these sort of different occasions we could kind of get it all accomplished. But basically we ran the whole building blower door test for PHI on those townhome buildings, walked away, came back 2 weeks later after they'd sealed up the holes and had done the punch for the owner, came back and did our Energy Star testing, that underlies the PHIUS verification protocol. And that's how we did it. It's a lot, it's a bunch of extra steps. There has to be a better way of coordinating that. But during the whole time, remember, we're also battling, trying to get power from the local utility, which, for a whole building blower door test, we can run the blower doors on temporary power. That doesn't matter so much. But for Energy Star, we have to have the HVAC system started up. So we can do room-to-room balancing and that kind of thing. And so for that purpose, we have to have permanent power. So the HVAC guys can come in and do their setup. Then we come in and do our testing. So it's a lot of choreography involved in it.
Have you figured out, I don't know, an alternative to that, or is that just going to be, the method? As
long as PHI and PHIUS are disaligned, no, we don't have an alternative. I'm open to suggestion, but remember, on these very large multifamily projects, a big stakeholder in this is the utility company, and working out their schedule when they can get their people out to power these things up, especially when it's a multi-phase project, like at this one up in Hartford. It gets energized at different stages, and there's a whole lot of site utility work going on. It becomes a very, very complicated process, and we have to sort of be agile and ready to show up when they need us to run the test.
Yeah,
that's not a very helpful answer, I understand, but we're all kind of working through it right now.
Yeah.
So this is again why these forums are good to have these discussions.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thanks, Adam. And I think I had Scott Kennedy had one question, and then from Scott, we will go to Jason or to Bruce.
I actually had two questions, but one's real quick. Was the energy costs charged to each individual unit, or are they some kind of a group thing? That would be first question. Second one was, when you did the air tightness test and you showed where the leaks were, how did you detect them? Were you using smoke, or how did you find out where all those leaks were? And of course, what did you actually hit with the target? That'd be the other question.
To answer you, go ahead, Sangeetha. Sorry.
No, Adam, you can take that. Just
Okay, the units are individually metered for gas and electricity. As far as the troubleshooting goes, we use a combination of smoke pencil and infrared, and also the back of the hand. I think your last question was about, did we hit the targets? Yeah. We struggled on a bunch of them. You know, the struggle with large multifamily projects is you don't have a specialized set of subcontractors that do passive house. You have big contractors that do all kinds of buildings. And even if you have the same general contractor going from project to project with a developer and design team does passive house, you don't always have the same subcontractors. So each case you have to train them anew. And every time there is something that gets missed. And that's just a guarantee of this kind of project. Here we had trouble at the exterior, the above grade wall to foundation air barrier seam, and then again at the above grade wall to ceiling air barrier seam, where they're moving along pretty quickly, and they ran sheathing up to the underside of the roof deck instead of stopping it at the ceiling level at the plate and making an airtight juncture there. So we had to go back and fix it inside the attic after the fact. Sorry about the noise here. I'm on a neighbor's porch and their trucks fixing power around here. That's why I'm on my mobile. So also apologize by looking at my nose at you. I wear bifocals on a mobile device, so I'm not literally looking at my nose at you, or not figuratively, but I am literally.
So we've had all the same kind of problems in our multifamilies, and we've not worried about air tightness suite to suite because we've been going PHI. But I'm curious as to how you created the air tightness suite to suite. What technique are you guys using?
That's a standard Energy Star detail.
Which is?
So you seal the plate to the slab. You seal the drywall to the plate. You seal where you ever have what they call a shaft wall, where you have a demising wall running between units, all the way up to the roof deck if that's where your air barrier is. In this case, the air barrier and the fire separation stop at the ceiling. So the seal happens between the wall and the ceiling at the top plate.
So what are your walls? I mean, are the walls a double stud wall between units, or are they just a single stud wall? And how are you getting air seal through all the electrical boxes, all that stuff?
we have two 2x4 walls with a 1-inch space as the demising wall detail.
All right, and then you're just air sealing one side or both? How are you doing the boxes, all that stuff?
The boxes on the demising walls?
The electrical boxes, yeah.
Yeah, they've got they're either putty packs or they're foaming where the wire comes out of the box, and there's a gasket as well.
All right. Thanks.
Great question, Scott. Thanks, and great answers, Adam and Sangeetha. I think I had, sorry, Bruce. Bruce, you're next.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good, Bruce.
Very good. Yes, I finished a passive house several years ago, and while the appliances all met the PHIUS certification, we had problems developed due to the discharge of the heat in the condensing dryers. And I wanted to know if you had the same experience.
Adam, I'm sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead.
So we just completed the phase 2 building in Meriden Commons, the presentation this afternoon. And I haven't heard of anything. Adam, I don't know have you heard of anything with the tenants who moved in? Any complaints?
No, not yet. They've been living there for almost a year, and no complaints yet. Well, what was the complaint that you guys were hearing?
But it provided a lot of excess heat in areas of the laundry room, toilet areas. Well, it comes in the form of almost like a steam that comes off of them. They don't list it anywhere in their literature or their specifications that this is a problem you had to be aware of, and as a consequence.
Yeah, I've never heard that. We'll keep our ears open, obviously.
Hey, Adam and Sangeetha, this is Charlie. I finally got in. I was having a lot of trouble. Thanks. I think I heard the question was about people's complaining. Residents at Passive House, Meriden 2. We've not heard any complaints whatsoever.
That's good.
Excellent, great stuff. Thanks for joining us, Charlie. Next we had Jason.
Yeah, hi. I appreciated the hot water conversation, and I wasn't sure if maybe I missed something here. There was a challenge going with electric due to modeling. Is that because of some energy cost metric, or what was going on there?
So in the PHIUS energy model protocol, the electric has a larger penalty versus the gas for the source energy.
Okay.
At least this is the second WRT Passive House building. We're working on more. So we're using gas, hot water, heating system. The direct vent tankless.
I'm not particularly familiar with PHIUS, but is there each different energy source has some kind of multiplier applied to it?
Yes.
And it favors fossil fuels?
It does, Jason, when the grid is dirtier. We have this warped view here where we assume hydro is clean.
Yeah, thanks,
and so it warps our thinking. But if they have some coal and other things in their mix, there is actually situations in the States where
fair enough. Yeah.
Fossil gas is cleaner than the electric grid when it's 100% or maybe 92%, whatever the Navian is.
Thank you. Makes perfect sense now that you say it. You do forget that over here sometimes. Thanks.
The IEC says that most of the electric grid in the Northeast is somewhere around 35% efficient delivered. So if you start to look at 92% versus a 1.5 to 2 COP, you're actually better off just burning the fossil fuel at your house right now.
It's hard to wrap my head around, but I get what you're saying.
It's gross, but true.
Good question, Jason, and appreciate the answers from everybody there. Prudence, we have you up next.
Yeah, Sangeetha, I was just wondering if you had done the fun exercise of taking your models and plopping them in different climates to see as you move to either hotter, lower climate zones or colder, higher climate zones, if the energy conservation measures would change between meeting the two different criteria. Because like when we're in climate zones 4 and 5, they're sort of close together, but as we get further away, they diverge a bunch. And I'm really curious to find the answer, which is why I'm asking if you.
Yeah, we actually haven't, but now I'm curious, and I guess this would be a good internal analysis to do. Because as I mentioned, like we are struggling a little bit to meet PHIUS 2018 for phase 4. And
what?
Yes.
Don't tell me that, Sangeetha.
We can do international, it's not a problem. It's
not
all right, good.
Client? Come on.
Don't tell me that.
That's news to you.
We'll get one or the other to work, Charlie.
All right, good. That's what I want to hear.
This is why we convene the happy hour, so people can talk to their clients.
Sure. Yeah.
It would be a really interesting study because, of course, more states and jurisdictions are going to be interested in developing these big townhome developments, and just sort of understanding like where everything lands, I think will really help people choose which is the better path depending on where they're at.
I think that's a really good point you're making, because we're seeing, well, I've seen so far anyway as an energy consultant, is I've watched the interest in Passive House move from the Middle Atlantic states north the past few years, but it seems to be infiltrating the South now as well. So I would think that the next few years we're going to see far more southern states, at least within the tax credit funded projects, look at these advanced energy conservation programs.
Yeah, to get, we're so excited about this project and to see some data going forward, especially for multifamily. Both standards have changed rather significantly over the last 2 or 3 years, particularly on the PER side, on PHI, and particularly with 2018 plus and some of the new internal heat gains and modeling requirements and PHIUS. And we really need to do probably a better job of helping teams understand the relative differences now, because they're quite different than they were when you probably started planning this project.
Yeah, I think PHIUS needs to understand these differences as well. If anyone's listening from PHIUS, hope you're on the line.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Lisa White is here, but
there's enough. I've got one more question before we finish up here. Before we go to the happy hour, or the after hour. Rob, are you there?
Yeah. Hi.
Great.
I thought of a few questions. I want to skip to.
What's up, Rob? How are you, man?
That I thought was really interesting. Hey, Adam, how you doing? So the question's for you. How much were you on site, and did the contractor have a dedicated person who was kind of a specialist at air sealing and was able to police what was going on?
Well, up until March 19th, I was up there every couple of weeks. Then the world collapsed. Since then, it's been every maybe once a month, along with some video inspections, which are not terribly helpful, mind you. We have a highly conscientious project manager and superintendent on this project, both of whom have been through PHIUS tradesman's training, which is great because they understand the terms that we're speaking. So their commitment to PASVAS has kind of been the tipping point on these projects. But yeah, it takes a lot of inspections, especially the big projects moving quickly with multiple phases. So we've had to deploy from our side as the verifiers, multiple teams, as much as we can get up there given COVID-19 travel restrictions. We've gone up there every few weeks to try and track this thing and nip the problems in the bud. I'm not sure if that answers your question though, Rob.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Thanks. And I guess probably there's some lessons learned in these first phases that are going to help out later.
Yeah, well, for us on these big multifamily projects, we're still kind of inventing the wheel. We've done projects that use, for example, zip sheathing with exterior rigid insulation on top of that. We've done projects that used plywood sheathing with a liquid applied vapor barrier and insulation on top of that, or EFIS. And we've done projects that have insulated sheathing like ZIP-R, like we're doing here. And each time we learn a little bit more. And as always with big multifamily projects, in the tax credit environment, it's about what you can afford to do and how you meet the cost effectiveness tests, and and how you make this a useful project for the populations you're trying to serve.
Couldn't agree more, Adam. So we're gonna just pop over to Zach, and there's still some more questions, so stick around.
I was on mute. So I just want to share about next week's Passive House Happy Hour presentation. We're going to have Aaron Swain from Weber Thompson presenting about the Solace project, which is a multifamily project in Capitol Hill in Seattle. It's a beautiful, beautiful project built by Cascade Built, and it should be a fascinating presentation. So please join us next week. Thank you.
Monty and Prudence, you want to say goodnight?
Good night. I'm not going anywhere, man. We're just getting started.
Well, I'll let Prudence run it from here. I am going to walk into the water with my 12-year-old. But I'm so grateful to have this project presented, grateful to have several of the people, the team here. Sangeetha, great presentation. And, this is exactly the kind of project we all want to support more of, regardless of the certification. Just great passive house, multifamily housing at reasonable prices. That's the game. So thanks so much for sharing. We're really honored by everything you've shared and look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you so much,
anybody-
Monty, and thank you all for having us.